Okay, yo, what's up, everybody? This is Peter Robot. I'm gonna make a track today. Going for sort of like an underground, minimal, glitchy, textural house vibe. The first thing I want to try is kind of like an interesting textural percussion phrase. And I just bought a plugin called Random Metal that I think is gonna work really well for this. All right, that's a pretty good preset. I'm gonna stick with this for now. Let's record something in. Okay, so there's something usable in there. I'm just gonna loop a couple parts and feel them out. So then I'm going to go into the Random Metal plugin itself on the laptop and screw around with the parameters. Anyway, so just messing around with that. Let's get some other stuff going and then we can come back and make changes as necessary. I'm gonna get into kick next. I'm thinking something kind of hard and thuddy and techno-y. Maybe that, let's try it. And maybe just to make it start out more subtle, and then we can bring in more later, but to make it start out more subtle, let's start the Random Metal patch at the lowest amount of stretch. That way I'm leaving in a lot of room for other character stuff, because where it's at right now, it's taking up like a lot of melodic space. So I want to tone it down so I can kind of build on it and build around it before it's as full on. So I've got an operator loaded up and I'm going to use it to determine what pitch this Random Metal riff is in, just by playing up chromatically with the operator while I play the Random Metal phrase to see. So I think it's actually that, which is G. Also going to put some overtones on the bass to give it like a donk. So we're going to go to oscillator B and we're going to change the coarse up to 2 and then change the level up to about 18-ish. So something like that, I guess, to start. Okay, I rearranged it a little bit on laptop to clean it up. Sounded pretty good. So let's start getting some tops in here. I'm always doing really normal sounding hi-hats, so I want to do something kind of weird. So I just loaded a bunch of Ableton library hi-hats. I'm just gonna find one that sounds a little bit off. Like that's kind of what I mean, but we'll keep looking. Yeah, so a lot of these kind of are different. So let's just load one in and then move it around. That may be the one. Okay, so I like that first one. We're gonna start with that. I wanna make it a little bit louder though, so I'm gonna put a drum bus on it. That should be good enough for right now. All right, let's get some claps in here, and then kind of same thing. I'm gonna load in some Ableton library claps and look for something that sounds a little bit weird and off, because I want this to be kind of an underground vibe. That could be good. That could be good. Maybe like a clap duo at the beginning of the phrase, like a putata. Let's try that. I'm gonna write that in. Need to do a little mixing on that. I think the first one's a little loud. I'm also gonna set these to a gate instead of a trigger so I can control how long or short they play. There's a good trick to know on Ableton. If you wanna change a parameter about every pad in a drum rack, I have all these claps in a drum rack, by the way. Right click on that parameter in one of the drum pads and hit copy to siblings, and that will copy that parameter to every pad in the drum rack. So for example, I just did that in here and it changed every clap in here to a gate. You can hear they're not ringing out. Okay, so I turned down the first clap. Now I'm thinking maybe put a reverb on every other of the second louder clap. Okay, so how I'm gonna do that is I'm going to copy this clap into another pad, and then I'm gonna put a reverb on just that pad so I don't have to turn the reverb on and off. So now I have this clap, one dry and one with reverb. The reverb I use is a hybrid reverb with a big low cut in it, and the dry wet turned down to about 27. I wonder how this sounds with the random metal phrase, with the tones of the random metal phrase brought back in. It's kind of cool. I like it subtle for now though still. So now I want to put something tonal over the top of this, subtle, but tonal, maybe something that only has a couple hits every measure. Let's start with another plugin from the same people that made Random Metal. I downloaded both of these at once. This other plugin is just called Random, and it makes weird sounds. I don't know, it might work. Let's try it out. Okay, so I've got like a percussion preset loaded up in Random Metal. Maybe if we put some effects on that, I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Okay, so I'm gonna cut some of the lows out of that, and then I'm gonna put a tantra on it. And then this is the Tantra preset drum Break It. And I think it actually kind of works. Not exactly what I was looking for, but we can save it for later. Let's do some glitches next. Okay, so I've started by loading in a handful of glitchy samples into a drum bank. Etc., etc. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to place them around the loop, and I'm going to put some delay effects on them, and then I'm going to randomize how often and at what rate those delay effects happen. And one more. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a delay on these guys with just a very short, unsynced millisecond rate. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take an LFO, I'm going to set it to random, I'm going to set the smooth all the way up to 100%, I'm going to set the time mode to free, and I'm going to map that LFO to the rate on the delay. So now you can see it moving around. Those sound pretty good. Next, I'm going to get a Tantra and find like a good rhythmic filter to put on it. So one thing I really like to do with Tantra is find a good filter and then take the delay off and sometimes most of the reverb off. So you're just getting like the core part of the filter and you're not getting like the super spaced out vibe that most Tantra presets have. So here's that first one with the delay taken off. This might work. Yeah, that's pretty sick. I'm feeling like this needs some more top lines in it. So I just want to find something like pretty simple and straightforwardish, because a lot of this stuff is pretty out there. So we need something a little bit more consistent and normally to ground it that's going to sit pleasantly in the mix and not make too much of a fuss. So I like that vibe right there. Let's put that guy in. Try not to use too many prefab tops. I use a lot of them actually, but I usually mangle them a little bit. But this one's simple. I've got a lot of stuff going on, so I'm just going to put it in as is. Maybe it comes down a little bit. where this is right now. So also with the random sound that I don't love, but I still feel like there's some value in it, let's try taking out a lot of the notes and just use a couple. Just gonna leave the first note in each measure. It's kind of cool, actually. Okay, it's now tomorrow. I took a break. Everything else you saw before this moment was yesterday, and now it's today. I actually wrote the rest of the song after where I stopped and am just starting again now, but it sounded kind of like shit because I was starting to get ear fatigue, starting to get numb to the loop. So that's kind of a good tactic to use sometimes when you're a couple hours in. If your music is all starting to sound like noise, just stop for a day. Come back to it with fresh ears. So where I left off, we need something tonal now to go on top of everything. We have a good foundation. We need some sort of a lead. I'm going to load up some stabs I downloaded yesterday from TrackLib and see if they work. That's kind of fun. I like sticking with this kind of growly theme that's already going on in here. Okay, so I just rearranged it a tiny bit. It's not bad. I'll probably still modify a little bit later. It's a little bit like upbeat and joyful. It's not quite as dark feeling as the rest of the song. I think the tones are feeling a little bit major. So I'll mess with that a little bit later, but let's put it aside for now. Let's mess with some vocals. That sounds good. Yeah, I think that really fits. I'm just going to chop it up a little bit so it's not overlaying the beat the whole time. Let's hear how that comes out. I want to kind of try and meld that and the stab phrase together to see how they can bounce off each other. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty sick. Well, perhaps it's time for some arrangement. Pow. So I'm thinking I want to start with just kick, with the kick and the glitchy percussions. And with a hi-hat. And then maybe move in pretty quickly to the bass. Hold that for a minute, and then drop in the random metal percussion riff. And then I need something else to come in with the random metal perks too. So maybe I'll add like one chop from the vocals. Like this maybe. Still need something more. Maybe those claps. I think that works. And then I added another break. I honestly did like a bunch of arrangement stuff. It's way too tedious to like talk about everything I'm doing though. It's just kind of takes me out of it's hard to stay in the like flow of arranging while chatting about it. So I'm just gonna play what I got. I'm gonna call it after this. So peace out, everyone. Thanks for listening and watching. Fun to make a track with my YouTube peeps. I hope you learned something. Hit me up if you have any questions in the comments. If you want to know about any plugins I used, have an excellent day.